Welcome. I'm Bernice Ross, the CEO and President of BrokerageUpandRealEstateCoach.com.
And my name is Greg McDaniel. I'm the co-host and co-founder of the incredibly popular and wonderful podcast, Real Estate Uncensored. But today, Bernice and I are Real Estate Coach Uncensored together.
Well, I tell you what, we have a terrific show for you today. It's called, Are You Still Branding With Your Name? Stop it! And Greg when I was talking to him about this, he wasn't buying what I had to say, but I've coached him through it right now, and he's going to share what's happened in the last 20 minutes as we went over this to prepare for today's show. So Greg, an effective brand is three things. It's memorable, it brings the product to mind that they're selling, and it addresses a specific niche in the market. So let's talk about three different brands that have been very successful for a whole lot of years. So when 7-Up decided to take on Coca Cola, they ran a whole marketing campaign that they ran for many years called the Uncola. Mm-hmm. Now, that immediately says they're a cola, but they're not Coca Cola. They're different, very memorable. Or do you know what BMW stands for? Most people don't know. It's Bavarian Motor Company, not a memorable brand, but the ultimate driving machine. Yeah, that is memorable. We just got a new one. I tell you what, it lives up to the brand. I mean, that thing just is mind blowing. And then, I love this. I mean, when I was a kid, I don't even want to say how many years ago that was, Wheaties was the breakfast of champions. Here it is. We're in the 21st century, and it's still the breakfast of champions. They've got pictures of, some of the tennis champs. I don't recall their names, but again, those are very clear brands. So how does this apply to real estate? Now, Greg, you're part of a team, and you're Greg at the McDaniel Callahan team, or Greg McDaniel at the McDaniel. So that's like 4 names to remember. And also, how do I spell, McDaniel and Callahan? And, you see there are problems with, when you brand with your name. And the reason it's such a big problem is that we are bombarded with names every day, names of different kinds of products, people's names, just their names coming at us all the time in all directions from all kinds of places. So it's not surprising we have trouble remembering names. Branding with your name is the least effective way to brand your business because of something psychologists call interference. And here's how it works. So Greg, you remember what you had for dinner last night?
I do, actually.
Okay. And can you remember what you had 365 nights ago?
I would love to say I could, but I can't. So no.
So what's happened is what you had for dinner last night is in your long-term memory. So that means it's back there somewhere, but because you've had so many dinners since then, it's the interference. And it's the same thing with names. That's only 365 dinners. Imagine you're being bombarded with thousands of names every day. So what do people remember? Well, if you were to meet me at a party, and, we had a good conversation. We liked each other, but I didn't follow up. You might remember the blonde lady who sells real estate in Austin here. Yeah.
Sure.
That's not going to find me. But if I branded myself with the function, in other words, what I do, where I do it, and who I do it with, those are the 3 criteria. Again, what I do, who I do it with, and where I do it. Those 3 criteria are the ones that you want to use for your branding. So if my brand was Austin Probate Sellers, and people remember that, well, gee, I met that blonde woman at that party, and she said she did Austin Probate or something. Well, let me go type in Austin Probate Real Estate. And my site will come up at that point. And I checked this here in Austin because I'm obviously not selling real estate these days. But I checked that there is one agent here in Austin who is using branding similar to that. And he comes up he was 2 at the top 3 searches on that. So the problem is, when you brand with your name, it's not as memorable. And, we cited this, but, so for example, if I'm working at Keller Williams and I use my name, Bernice Ross, which brand's going to be more memorable?
Probably your brokers.
Yes. Greg, so your dad's been in business for 49 years. he's become a brand for being in business that long. Is that correct?
That is 100% correct. We call it the Terry Wiggle, because whenever he goes to Starbucks or Safeway or the supermarket or anywhere else, people recognize him literally right off the bat. Because back in the day, he had his brand all across Safeways before social media was a thing, right? He would have his face, you could see his face from the back of the store of Safeway. So nowadays, with his branding, he can go to Starbucks, sit there, get on his laptop, do a little work, hang out on Facebook or whatever else, and people will come up to him and be like, Terry McDaniel? And he'll be like, yes. And he'll be able to have a conversation with people because of his branding. It was so unique. It was it was actually the Terry McDaniel team before the McDaniel Callahan team. And so everybody knew his name around town and they knew his face. It was very, very effective.
Well, that's the power of being highly niched and staying with your brand for many years. But the problem is when your dad retires and if you want to sell the brand, it's not sellable.
No, it's not. It's not at all, because you know what? My last name is obviously McDaniel. My business partner's last name is Callahan. So if either of us retire, then that brand has to shift and change again. So no, it is not a saleable brand. And that's something that you and I, when I say you and I, when you were coaching me before this recording in regards to kind of some different ideas, my mind literally just blew up because of the opportunities that are available in your local communities that you don't even know they're there. So Bernice, dive into that a little bit, because I mean, again, my guys, I'm not kidding you. Like I just bought like literally 7 URLs for my local market areas that are completely saleable and you can scale on these things. So Bernice, dive deep on that.
Okay, so let me give you some examples of what we're talking about. So the first thing you want to do when you brand your business, and now if you're already branding with your name, what you can do, Greg, what you're going to do in this case, if you want to keep that brand or if you want to start a new one, you can. That's really up to you. You've got a lot, tremendous name recognition in your local market. But if you don't have that, or even if you do, it's still not saleable. So you lose your partner, you've got to change. So you can start building this other collateral with a new brand that you can put under your sub brand. So you want to have a brand that says real estate, that addresses a specific niche or market area that you serve, such as probate, first-time buyers, estates, horse properties, luxury homes, golf properties, any one of those. And then another thing that you can do is you can tie it to a zip code. And this is where there's a real golden opportunity. Greg's like smiling because we did this. What we can do, let me give you some examples of what we're talking about. So, if I'm living in Scottsdale and I have a niche serving first-time buyers, or I'm doing a lot of first-time buyer business, even if I had Bernice Ross as my brand, I could still get a secondary brand, ScottsdaleFirstTimeBuyers.com, and then I build that out with all the collateral for first-time buyers, down payment resources, information that they need, copies of our buyer seminar that we've done that they can play back. We record it. They can, play that back at any time. Or, South Austin has gotten to be very popular here. A lot of condominiums down there, SouthAustinCondos.com. So I've got a geographical location. I've got the type of property that I'm specializing in. And again, I could add a zip code to that if I wanted to. Hollywood Hills Estates, I could add the zip code to it. I would dare say probably one of my favorite brands. Back in the 1980s, I was one of the 3 sales reps for the Summit Above Beverly Hills subdivision, guard-gated community, a lot of really expensive homes back there now, still, but I lived there for 11 years. And their marketing was the Summit Above Beverly Hills, anything else would be beneath you. And it's sitting on top of, Mulholland Drive. That's the truth. One of the highest points in LA. Anything else is beneath you. But they're also going for the, 90210 address and the snob appeal on that. So anyway, That's kind of fun. So let's talk about, Greg. So let's talk about some of the benefits,
Sure.
and then we're gonna turn you into a case study here in a moment.
I'm a living case study around you. So this is
That's
nothing
another
new.
story we'll talk about. Okay, so the benefits are, well, first of all, if you're branding using one of these strategies that we've talked about, so say I had southaustincondos.com and I'm working for for one of the brands, and they get, say that say I'm working for Remax and they decide that they're going to change, franchises, and they go to a different franchise. Well, or they get bought out or acquired by somebody else, I can continue marketing with exactly as I have been. I don't have to change. I might have to change the logo on our site or something to reflect the new brand, but I'm still got my URLs that I'm marketing to. Also, my niche marketing, and Reese and Trout talk about this in their book, Marketing Warfare. And if you haven't read this thing's a classic. It's over 20 years old. But what they said in that book, the big takeaway was, big brands can't afford to compete for small market segments. So what you want to do is go deep in a niche and really own that niche. Let's get rich in a niche, because, I'm sorry, Zillow's not going to try to come after a specific subdivision of 500 homes, but that subdivision can be a huge profit center for you. So if you change companies, also the great thing about having your own brand, again, especially if it's a geolocation brand, is that, so if you had you work in Danville, so live in Danville, what the zip code is, then when, I meet someone, they'll remember live in Danville. Oh yeah, that was the blonde whose partner was the tall guy with the beard that they had that, and so it's like people remember the things about you, but they won't remember your name. But then, okay, well, they're working in Danville real estate. Well, then that would, ideally that would come up on the search. When I get ready to leave, can I sell these URLs? Maybe I can't sell Bernice Ross, but I could sell all these other URLs. So, Greg, let's talk about your experience. So, I told you about this, and you went up to GoDaddy and you started searching. What did you search for, and what did you find?
It was actually very surprising. And to briefly go back to what you were talking about a second ago, thank God my father, Terry McDaniel, years and years and years and years ago, he bought, and actually I literally yesterday, I went and I contacted him and I said, hey, look, do you have gregmcdaniel.com? He's like, I do. And he has Greg at gregmcdaniel.com for email. He has all these different URLs and emails and everything else that's really kind of hones in on something that you can protect and you can really build on. And so,
Greg, let me get you to pause right there, because what you've just raised is an extremely important issue. If you don't own your name, like BerniceRoth.com, GregMcDaniel.com, go see if you can purchase it, because you need to protect that. So that is a huge takeaway that you just shared with everybody.
Yeah, no, it was really big. And I thought he was completely crazy when he bought it. But now that I'm looking back on it, I talked to him. He owns like 5,000 or 7,000 URLs. It's ridiculous how many URLs he owns. It was actually very proactive of what he did, because what he did is he preserved my name, his name, all of our team members' names and everything else, so that if and when we wanted to do different websites, we could do it based upon our own name. We also have McDanielCallahan.com, which I'm dyslexic, and Callahan is a bear cat to spell, but I've learned how to do it. So that's why I'm so happy to have these things in place for us. But like Bernice, what you were talking about, what I found when I went to GoDaddy.com, I went to, guys, I live in Northern California, right? And I live in the Bay Area. So my zip codes are 945 and then 2 additional numbers. So 07 is going to be Alamo, 26 is going to be west side Danville, 06 is going to be east side Danville, and 96 is going to be, part of Walnut Creek, where I live personally, in the 96. But I typed in 945 07, which I purchased, and homes for sale, and nobody owned it. I bought all of those zip codes and those, URLs for $11 a pop for a year. I mean, I own all of them, and I'm going to put them into specific websites where I can build specific information about those specific areas where I now can build, a niche in real estate. Now, I'm not going broad. I'm not going to whole Bay Area. I'm just going these specific zip codes because you know what? There's enough business out there for all of us. But if you buy these things like 94, whatever your zip code is, homes for sale, just try it out. Look it up right now. If you guys are listening to my voice, look it up. If it's available, buy it. It can be incredibly powerful.
Well, and you can do the same thing for for different types, as we've mentioned before. You could be Austin Horse Properties. That is, again, very very clear niche based upon a specific part of it. Now you don't want to get too niche because the issue can be, is there enough business there? But what you're talking about doing, Greg, is having these multiple sites. And again, you want to make each site. My horse property site would be very different from my from my condominium site. I'm going to have two very different kinds of things on each site. Again, what you're looking at doing is building the collateral on your website. And what we're using here is what they call a long tail search strategy, which what that means is that, people are searching by typing in more details. Any one of those things that lets me come up higher in the search and then build out, I can, use the collateral from these different sites on the same site, because your goal is to get them back to a landing page where you can make an offer of service and you can, convert them into a lead. Pure and simple.
Yeah, very, very simple. I mean, when you and I were talking, I just typed up something which I just actually bought based upon our conversation, based upon Los Angeles. You're referencing that, but I looked up larealestateforsale.com. And it's available. Guys, these URLs are out there. They're available for you guys. And you can really niche down in regards to what you wear and what you want to sell. It could be LA condos. It could be Austin condos. It could be Austin lakefront. It could be, San Francisco, bayfront. It could be whatever you want. Guys, niche down. Stop going everywhere and trying to sell everything to everyone when you can really just look. This is the whole point. If you niche down, you're going to be able to do a couple of things. You're going to save time, energy, money, gas, and just your mental mindset, because you're going to be able to say, okay, this is where I live, right? And a lot of you guys are probably right now looking at me going like, Greg, you're nuts. Like, why would I only want to stay in one place? Here's the reason. Because you know what the people eat for dinner in these neighborhoods. You don't know what they eat for dinner across town. You know what they're doing in this area. That makes you an expert. That gives you status. So if you guys think I'm crazy, try it. If you think Bernice is crazy, try it.
I can tell you this works because
I've
sat in a lot of branding seminars, and I was very fortunate to be a part of one of the top probably 7 or 8 brands in the country when they were rebranding back in about 2006 and 2007. They brought in the best, the Coca Cola brand consultants, essentially, were the ones that helped them with their rebrand. I sat through that. And again, I got part of that from listening to that discussion. And then I also have another dear, dear friend who has the coolest brand in real estate as far as I'm concerned. His name is James Dwiggins. And he has a Realty World, company in Northern California that he's had for many years. Does a couple $2 billion in sales, but he started a brand in 2014 called Next Home. Is there better branding in the real estate business to say what a franchise does? And I mean, it's about as clear of, 2 words, as clear as can be. It took him 3 years to secure everything. The 2 words that are the best brand for me in the real estate business, because for a franchise, if I'm Coldwell Banker, I've had people ask me, are they in the banking business? And when we were we were Prudential John Douglas, there was confusion about whether did we have something to do with insurance? So again, confusion about what the brand stands for, and you want to avoid that in your business. So, Greg, what's your final takeaway for today?
There's so many, Bernice. There's so many. I guess the one thing I would say is that for each and every one of you guys that are listening to my voice, seeing my face right now, watching you, Bernice and I talk about this, is I want you to sit down. I want you to take one of these things called a yellow pad, right? And I want you to write out what your niche market really is. Where do you really want to work? So if I'm in the San Francisco East Bay, but there's an opportunity to sell home in San Francisco, that's a 35-minute, 40-minute drive away from me. That's not my niche area, right? The East Bay, the 680 corridor is my niche area. So identify what your niche area is, go out, buy the URLs, and then I want you guys to become absolute, like Tom Cruise famous in these niche market areas where you guys, when you walk into a bank, when you walk into your supermarket, when you walk into your, CVS or whatever else, people will recognize you based upon what you're building because you're staying in your niche. Niches make riches. End of stories, guys. Take that to the bank, start buying the URLs. If I don't buy them first, and go make your business thrive, guys. I love to see what you're doing, and share with Bernice and I in the comment section below. Let us know what you guys bought and what your successes are.
Greg, so just to summarize quite briefly again, you want to say what you do, where you do it, who you do it with, and again, you can include a special, a specific market niche, zip code, town, again, and the word real estate, homes, anything that says you're in real estate. Yeah. Thanks for being with us today, and go out there and look at how you can brand your business more effectively going forward.
All right, guys, have a great day. Take care. Have a good one.